The following is a conversation between Aria Finger, President and CEO of DoSomethingorg, and Denver Frederick, host of The Business of Giving on AM 970 The Answer in New York City.
Numerous studies show that millennials entering the workforce place a higher premium on going to work for a purpose-driven company than do older workers. And in much the same vein, their choice of brands is influenced to a greater degree on the social good a company is doing. And maybe one of the reasons they got that way is that millions of them were once members of DoSomething.org. And here with us this evening to explain is their CEO, or more appropriately, their chief old person, Aria Finger. Welcome back to The Business of Giving.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
So tell us about DoSomething.org, the mission and purpose of the organization.
DoSomething.org is the largest organization in the world. We're a global organization for young people and social change. So it is our entire purpose to get young people, age 13 to 25, to find a cause they're passionate about and then take action with one of our campaigns.
Well, let's talk about a couple of those campaigns. Get right into it. One that I've always loved is Give a Spit About Cancer, probably also one of your more carefully pronounced campaigns. Tell us about it. How does that work?
Well, Denver, Give a Spit is also my favorite campaign, so you have good taste. It is a campaign that's based on the fact that so many people need to get bone marrow transplants if they have blood cancers, leukemia, etc., and they can't find a match. They might not have a match within their own family, and so they need to go to the kindness of strangers. And Give a Spit About Cancer asks everyone, but especially college students, because they're the ones with the best bone marrow, to simply swab their cheek and get registered on the bone marrow registry.
Fantastic.
And through this campaign, you can literally save people's lives. Our head of product, Mike Fantini, he signed up for the bone marrow registry for our Give a Spit About Cancer campaign, and he saved the life of a 7-year-old boy from Texas.
Well, you've had over 100 matches, haven't you?
Absolutely. We're actually one of the number one referrers to the bone marrow registry, and we are so proud of that fact.
You have a great history also with homeless shelters. Teens for Jeans was one of the campaigns that you cut your teeth on, and that's evolved even further into something called Power to the Period. Tell us about that campaign.
The most important thing when you're giving back is to make sure that you're doing something that's actually needed. And so we have kept a very close relationship with homeless shelters to find out what is the thing that these homeless men and women need the most. Our Teens for Jeans campaign had jeans donated to homeless youth. And now our Power to the Period campaign with Kotex is all about getting fem care for homeless women and trans men that desperately need those products when they're on their period. And as a woman, I am just so proud that we are finally able to say the word period in mixed company in this country.
That's great. You know, you talk about launching a campaign, Aria. How do you give birth to a campaign? How are they decided? How does one of these things grow and then get activated?
We have 3 rules for our campaigns. Brand, scale, impact. Brand, it must be uniquely do something. And lose your V card. I don't know anyone else who's doing a campaign like that. Scale, for this campaign in particular, we wanted hundreds of thousands of young people to be able to participate and register to vote. And then impact. Do we know that this campaign is making a measurable impact on the cause? And we all know that the importance of voting and the importance of creating sort of a social norm around voting. And this campaign does just that, getting lots of young people to first register and then get to the polls.
Well, let's talk about impact. You were an econ major. You've always loved math. I think you still harbor the dream of becoming a 9th grade math teacher and basketball coach. So numbers and data are really important to you. How do you go about measuring the impact that these campaigns are having?
We are really lucky at Do Something to have a chief data officer, as well as other folks that are focusing on data every single day. And one thing they've done is they've opened up data to the entire organization. So I can go onto our dashboard and look at exactly how our campaigns are doing on a minute-by-minute basis. And one of the things we've really looked at is the percent of our new members who have reported back in the first 30 days. We want to get young people to action as quickly as possible. And over the last 6 months, we've seen actually a doubling in the number of young people reporting back in the first 30 days, which is a good sign for the future.
Fantastic. How were you able to do that?
Everything we do is a mixture of product and content. If our campaigns aren't excellent with excellent names and titles and amazing impact, they're not going to go anywhere. But if we don't have good product, if we don't have a frictionless website, if we don't have excellent SMS capabilities, then we're also going to go nowhere. So we have a mixture of good content, which is good campaigns, along with our product and engineering team who have making sure that our website is as seamless as possible.
I think the millennials have been studied and dissected to death by just about everyone. So now, Generation Z, it's beginning to be their turn to come under the microscope. And that would be that generation born from 1996 to 2011. They're somewhere between 5 and 20 years old, and they make up a good number of the people who are members of DoSomething.org. Tell us about Gen Z and how they differ from their older siblings, the millennials.
Well, I'm tired of talking about millennials, too. So thank you, Denver. No, Gen Z is very important to us. You know, you're especially sort of that older cohort, your teen years. That is when, as a young person, you solidify your affiliations. You really sort of think about how you view the world. And that's why it's really important to do something to make sure that these teenagers are experiencing volunteering, giving back, social change. And we do see differences between Gen Z and the millennial generation. I think one of the most stark contrast actually has to do with privacy. These young people sort of grew up in a digital world with social media, and a lot of people are saying, oh, teenagers don't care about privacy, but it's just not true. It's something they actually guard very closely.
Interesting.
And it'll be interesting to see how that sort of plays out as they, enter the workforce and become, leaders in the business and nonprofit worlds.
Yeah. I also think they seem to be a bit more serious than the millennials. I don't think that they want to be saddled with the student debt that the millennials have and are much more focused on getting good jobs when they get out of school.
I mean, these are also young people, to your point, who, have experienced a pretty horrific recession over the last 5 years. And so, yes, they are career-oriented. They want to make sure that they're getting into the right college, but also not saddled with that debt. So I think that's going to be really important to see how they sort of view the economy, their own finances, and their family's finances.
Everyone in our sector talks about the need to be more daring, to take bigger risks, but I really see everywhere I look that we are still pretty much afraid to fail. And I guess one of the ways of combating that is to hold a fail fest like DoSomething.org does. What is a fail fest?
So Do Something is not perfect, and we are still certainly afraid to fail at times, but FailFest has been a wonderful way to mitigate against that very natural feel. So twice a year, we hold a Fail Fest, and you are nominated by your manager to present.
Oh, wow.
But when you do, you must wear a pink boa, and you must give 3 learnings that you had from this failure and 3 learnings that the organization had, and each one of these learnings must be accompanied by a pop culture corollary. This is to keep the afternoon light and fun and in a mode of learning as opposed to, feeling ashamed and sweeping that failure under the rug. And it's been a really excellent way to both sort of normalize talking about failures that we've had in the past, but also to really spot talent, to really see, oh, wow, that employee analyzed the failure, thought up new ideas, really has a plan for the future. So instead of being a bad thing to present at FailFest, it can actually turn into a positive.
Yeah, you can really show how you can handle these things and your poise and all the rest of it under some pretty dire circumstances. For much of your existence, you have been a North America organization, United States and Canada, but a few years ago, you went global. Tell us about where you are now and some of the things you're doing around the world.
So just under a year ago, we actually opened up our website so that it's available in 4 languages. The first, English. The second is actually global English. The third is Spanish. And the fourth is Portuguese. So then if you are in Mexico, Brazil, or the rest of the world, you're not getting a U.S.-centric view of these causes anymore, which was really important to us. We wanted to make sure that our sort of 4th of July barbecue campaigns weren't showing up when you were accessing the website from Indonesia. I think a few things are important about global. One is our global traffic is actually growing at twice the rate of our U.S. traffic. So we're seeing a lot of traction there. And number 2 is that we've actually seen members in 131 countries.
That is great.
So the demand for social change is universal. Of course, the causes that young people might be interested in different countries vary by geography.
Give us a few examples.
One example of a campaign that actually resonated universally was women's empowerment. We saw young people in 71 countries participate in our Real Women campaign that talked about the obstacles that women face and how women can achieve their goals.
How many members do you have overall? You mentioned it before.
5.3 million members on a global basis.
That is fantastic. And you were just over about 3 million, I guess, when you went global. So you really have had a tremendous infusion across the globe.
Yeah, no, we grow by more than 1 million members a year, which we are really excited about. And so this year, it's both going to be about growth from a member perspective and then also deepening the impact of each member who comes to our site.
That's great. All nonprofit organizations are always looking for these earned income streams, and they usually try to do it around one of their core competencies. And again, a couple of years ago, you did that by starting up a consultancy called TMI. What does it do, and how much, Aria, has it meant to your bottom line?
TMI is really exciting to me for two reasons. One is the earned income piece of it. So we are monetizing our core competency, and we're talking to other not-for-profits and brands that really want to reach young people through social change. But the second is it's actually a way to extend our impact. We're not talking to brands about how to sell more sugar water or how to sell the next widget, but we're talking to these companies and these nonprofits about how to activate young people. And so this is just another arm of Do Something that has another outlet as how we can activate this next generation, which I think is pretty exciting.
And what does TMI stand for?
It stands for too much information, but we stick to TMI on a regular basis.
Well, we're going to be speaking to your colleague, Greg Perlstein, here in just a few minutes more about it. So, you're interesting in that most people, when they graduate from college, almost have a plan to jump around to a number of different jobs, get increasing responsibilities, and go to some different places. And you are a throwback to a bygone era in that your entire professional career, all 11 years of it, has been spent in one place. And I must say, Aria, that's worked out pretty well for you. But speak to that a little bit and maybe some of the benefits of having taken that path.
So it certainly wasn't the path that I was planning. In my job interview for Do Something with our previous CEO, Nancy, she asked me, where I saw myself in 3 years. And I said, well, in 2 years, I'm going to leave Do Something and go to the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy. So that was a slip of the tongue, because she said, why would I hire you if you're going to leave me in 2 years? Luckily, I was not correct about my future. And I think that the reason you leave jobs is if you are unchallenged, if you're not having fun, if you don't appreciate your coworkers, if you feel underappreciated. And I have been so lucky in all of those regards to sort of find everything I need at Do Something. And so I couldn't be more grateful for the sort of opportunities I've been given, and also for just the sort of wonderful work and camaraderie that I get to experience every day.
Well, you certainly have made the most of it, and I want to pick up on that idea about the work and the camaraderie. Craig's Business issued their list of 100 best places to work in New York, and DoSomething.org was about the only nonprofit named. Tell us about the corporate culture at DoSomething.org and why it is such a great place to work.
So when people think about great places to work, they often think of perks. They think of free lunches and dinners and scooters and ping pong tables in the office. And I think those things are nice, but just like the consumer research says that young consumers value experiences over buying things and you get more happiness from that, I think the same thing is true of the workplace. We recently had an employee post on Facebook that her most memorable moment of the office was when she was doing our September 11th campaign a few years ago, and she was able to thank firefighters and policemen for their good service around New York City. So I think that one thing that really makes it a great place to work is that not only are you surrounded by passionate, smart, amazing people, but you're able to do good work that actually makes an impact. We're so lucky to have this enormous impact on the cause space. And I think that's the number one most important thing. And then number two, of course, is the colleagues that you work with every day. And since Do Something has, gained some notoriety and become more popular, we've been lucky in that we've been able to be very choosy about our talent. And so we only hire the best, and that helps retain the best folks and contribute to a really positive corporate culture.
And you also have tried to broaden the diversity by introducing some really innovative ideas like this student debt forgiveness program you have. Explain that.
So diversity is incredibly important to Do Something, and we're not done. We have a lot of ways to go, a lot of problems, a lot of solutions still to find. So I won't say that we're perfect on this topic, but we're always looking to improve. And so when we're talking about socioeconomic diversity, it's not something you can see. You're not going to say, oh, I really need someone of a new gender for this role, because you don't know when you look at someone. And so what we decided to do was institute a policy where after an employee had been at Do Something for 5 years, they actually would be able to forgive $20,000 of their undergraduate student debt. And this was important to us because around 3 years, someone might say, okay, I've worked at a not-for-profit for 3 years. I'm 25, now I'm 26. Now I have to go make real money because I have to go pay off these student loans. And we wanted to say to that person, you know what, stick it out another year with us. And when you get to that 5-year anniversary, we'll actually forgive $20,000 worth of that student debt.
Yeah, well, my producer right now is online looking at your job postings. So, Well, Aria Finger, the Chief Executive Officer of DoSomething.org, thanks for being here this morning. It was a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
The Business of Giving can be heard every Sunday evening between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern on AM 970 The Answer in New York and on iHeartRadio. You can follow us at Biz of Give on Twitter and at Facebook.com/biz.